Centering prayer or meditation was one of the topics of the first Turtle Island Project Regional Conference in Munising, Michigan. The co-founder of the Turtle Island Project was the featured speaker at the conference. He's Reverend Dr. George Cairns of Chesterton, Indiana.
I've been blessed to study with Father Thomas Keating. There's a Trappist monk, teacher, and have learned over the last 20 years of regular silent meditation what a powerful tool this is and how it can open ourselves to one another and to all creation, which is what this participant consciousness is all about.
As you heard, Reverend Cairns says he learned centering prayer from Father Thomas Keating, a Trappist monk. Trappist refers to a branch of an order of monks known for austere rule, including a vow of silence. Keating defines centering prayer as, quote, a very simple method in which one opens oneself to God. Keating continued, centering prayer is a form of meditation where a person uses a point of focus, such as concentration on breath or repetition of a mantra. Keating continued, centering prayer relies more on intention than attention. That centering prayer is releasing any distractions caused by thoughts or emotions. The practitioner, he says, simply waits for God. Beyond words, emotions, and thoughts, centering prayer is, says Keating, like two friends sitting in silence, just being in each other's presence.
The theological emphasis in centering prayer is to open our hearts to deeper relationship with God and to increased openness to the movement of the Holy Spirit in our lives. So it has a focal theological element to it. And the technique of doing it is simply to rest with God.
Centering prayer allows us to open our hearts to a deeper relationship with God. However, Reverend Cairns admitted it's an easier technique to teach than for people to learn and practice.
Not easy to do. Easy to teach how to do it. Very difficult to do.
Reverend Cairns said that centering prayer and participative consciousness are techniques of deep meditation. The technique to doing it is simply to rest with God. Dr. Cairns said the intensive form of meditation known as centering prayer helps eliminate the internal dialogue or chatter that's going on all the time in people's minds.
What I found early on was how much of my life was consumed by my internal dialogue. You get to be in silence for a little bit, and you notice that there's this kind of chattering going on all the time. Right? What about yesterday? What about how this traffic may be tonight? Like it's going to rain in the fridge. You know, all this stuff is just going on constantly inside our heads. And one of the things that process does is it keeps us from opening ourselves for
that the way that you're framing this issue is, I think, part of our illness as a culture.
At one point, a member of the audience questioned Dr. Cairns, asking how he accomplishes his goals simply by centering prayer or meditation instead of taking action. Dr. Cairns countered he does both, and that centering prayer makes his concrete actions more effective.
People say, but how about the structural evil? Well, I believe in structural evil, and I engage it throughout my life. We can't get where we are to where we're called to be with our heads. We just can't do that. Can't think or
you can get there without your head.
No, I didn't say that. I said we can't get there, again, another kind of cultural constraint, with our heads. We need our heads and we need something more.
Reverend Cairns said, in fighting the world's evil, we can't get there with just our hearts. We need our heads and something more. And that something more is a deep relationship with one another and with all creation.
We need our heads and we need something more. And something more, I think, is a deep empathic relationship with one another and with all of creation.
Reverend Cairns explained that he fights environmental problems and other important social issues with a wide range of methods, including contemplative prayer and engaging structural evil.
Whenever I talk about being in silence, it's happened to me dozens of times, is that somebody says, yeah, well, how about doing something for the suffering? Well, I'm saying do both, but I don't think we can be as effective or as wise or as empathic about that kind of work until, or at the same or while, we're engaging ourselves with ourselves and with others in another kind of way, like rational thinking. That rational thinking is wonderful, but it's not the ne plus ultra, okay?
Reverend Cairns said the Scotland-based Iona Community is a good example of a group of people who are, quote, unified by a covenant, worship together, and who engage in very effective political action to change structural evil.
I mean, I think the Iona Community is one example of a group of folks who are unified by a covenant, who worship together, and who engage in very effective political action to change structural evil in the places we live. So it's not like these things aren't happening. It's just that they're not happening where we can see them, except maybe on the web.
Reverend Cairns explained that he fights environmental problems and other important social issues with a wide range of methods, including contemplative prayer and engaging structural evil.
That Western civilization, as it's developed, has developed a huge shadow of structure so that the working systems, the structures to perpetuate themselves as a process has been going on for at least 10,000 years. At least 10,000 years, we've become dehumanized. We've done great things, but we've lost a precious dimension.
Then there was a larger discussion of evil. Reverend Hubbard said the reason this evil is so great is because it is structured into our political, religious, and cultural institutions. Hubbard said, we let these structures do our dirty work for us, and then think we can walk free by simply claiming we had nothing personally to do with it.
Because we have been so oppressed by so many of these structures. You know, we have created structures. This is so evil.
Reverend Hubbard said that some, but not all, of the world's corporations are part of this structural evil. One test, he said, is the ability to say, I'm sorry.
That are not moral entities. If you cannot say you're sorry, if you cannot have been a mistake, you're not a moral entity. The first thing that Christians do when we get together, overwhelmingly, right, is that we confess our sins.
Hubbard said some members of the news media have become, quote, extensions of the current political and corporate power regimes running this country. I'm Greg Peterson, and you're watching Turtle Island TV.